Hey guys, how's it going? Back at you with another video on Devil May Cry Peak of Combat. In this video, I wanted to share with you guys my physical team rotation between characters like LS, CA, and DH is typically what I run. I thought I'd do something a little bit different in this video and just kind of do like a walkthrough step-by-step demonstration of how I play the team, the rotations I do, just some context behind, like, you know, the purpose and intent of some of the buffs, when to do the rotations, when to pull off the QTEs, things like that. So I hope to demonstrate that and kind of explain things. I am doing this in my video editor, so I'm able to kind of go back and forth on things. I'll do a lot of pausing and playing just to kind of stop the video, kind of explain a few things, and then resume it. So hopefully it's easy to follow along. And at the end, there's actually two different methods to this rotation that I've been experimenting with. At the end of the video, I kind of have like a comparison between the two, a side-by-side comparison to see which one performs better. It's a really close call, and we'll kind of go through that once we get there. But for now, let's just, I'll show you guys kind of the initial rotation, the intent behind it, and then I'll go into the variation of the rotation, and then lastly, we'll go through the comparison. All right, so let's start it up here. And I just want to say, I don't know why I chose to fight Navon. She's just so annoying to fight. Her moveset is really frustrating to deal with sometimes. She has a lot of ass pulls. She'll just interrupt random shit sometimes, and it's just really hard to get a good run on her, so super annoying. But here we go. So I start with LS. You know, people might have different opinions on this, but there's a pretty good reason for it. I start by charging 3 of his Void Slashes to fill up his Void Slash meter. So I've done my 3, and So I've done my 3 slashes, and I now have his Void Slash meter full. His Deep Stinger is now ready to go. So at this point, that's all I want to do. I'm going to now QTE out into CA, because when you do these Void Slashes, you're also going to fill the bleed gauge on the boss. Once that bleed gauge is full after about the 3rd hit, and of course, depending on what kind of bleed efficiency cards you have equipped, I believe I have 200% at this point, so 3 Void Slashes is enough to put her on bleed status, which is going to activate CA's QTE. And once I've got this bar full, I now want to switch out to him. So switch out to him, I'm going to pull out his Ultra, I'm going to start applying his buffs. I'm going to Royal Fork to activate his buff right here, and once that's applied, you'll see that DH's QTE actually became available because we stripped off Navon's shield. Let me show you guys here. So one important thing to do too in this rotation is get LS's Void Slashes full, get his Deep Stinger ready to go, switch out to CA. You want to rip off the shield with CA, because once that shield comes off, DH's QTE becomes active. Now, once I do his Ultra here, and I want to apply his Royal Fork buff, now I want to switch out to DH. We're going to hit. It's going to apply this buff here. We're going to go Devil Trigger, and we're going to apply the double weaken here. So now we have CA's buffs, we have DH's buffs, and you'll also notice on this side we now have the Navon card set buff that gives us an outrageous amount of damage buff. So we are all set. We have all kinds of buffs ready, and now LS is also ready to QTE in and do his Deep Stinger. Now, generally, we would pull out Doppelganger, but because all we did with him so far was get his Deep Stinger ready, we do not have MP yet. So this Deep Stinger, though being fully buffed, is going to be strong. It's not going to be at its fullest potential. So what we do now is we use this Deep Stinger to fill up the MP gauge all the way. Granted, you have decent MP regen on your cards. I don't know what mine is off the top of my head. I think it's somewhere between 50 to 60%. But once this is full, right after this last hit lands, That's like a 3.2 mil hit. You want to make sure that hit lands. It's good damage. Now you want to pull out his ultimate, which is the Doppelganger. Important note to make too is wait until he fully extends his arm. Wait until Doppelganger actually appears on the field, because if you cancel the animation too soon, the Doppelganger is not going to fully summon out onto the field. So you want to make sure that he's fully summoned first, actually appears, before you go into another action. And you'll see that in the next rotation. So this next rotation is now, we're actually going to do another Deep Stinger here, but I'll show you that at this point is when our rotation basically starts over. So from here, I'm going to do my 3 Void Slashes again. 1, 2, and the third one. Now I'm going to go into another Deep Stinger, and the reason I say that is because, oh, I forgot to go over the buff. Sorry. When I summon Doppelganger, you'll notice a buff appears at the top. So right when he summons onto the field, we get this buff right up here. So this is the buff that gives you a lot of damage too, because the buff is for every 1 second that the Doppelganger is on the battlefield, you get a 10% damage increase to a maximum of 50%. So after 5 seconds, you'll be doing 50% damage increase. So we'll do this again. My 3 Void Slashes, but as you can see, the buff is now counted to 5. We're at 50% increased damage. And now I'm going to do my second Deep Stinger. Still got a little bit of buff left. The buff ended. So by the time you're done your second Deep Stinger in this rotation, CA's buffs are pretty much ran out, which is perfect timing, because after this, we're now going to apply our 3 Void Slashes again to build up his Void Slash bar. So now that we're ready to go, I'm going to switch back out to CA, reapply the buffs. Notice how Navon's shield came off again. So I'm going to apply Royal Fork. I'm going to QTE to DH. So I did a Devil Trigger, hit him, got the buff. Now I'm going to go right into a Stinger. Now I've got everything again. I've got Navon buff. I've got everything from CA. I've got everything from DH. And now I have a LS that's QTE ready and has Doppelganger ready. So now we can pound on the big damage. So now we pull out LS. He does some good damage with his QTE. It's a little bit finicky sometimes, though, but it's also this bitch of a boss that's really annoying. But once the QTE comes out, you can cancel, because it kind of flings him up into the air. You can bring him right back down to the ground by activating his ultimate right away. So once that comes out, you activate Ultra, wait for the Doppelganger to show. Now you can hold your style skill and go into Deep Stinger, and you now have Navon buff active, CA's buff active, DH's buffs active, and LS's buffs active. And now that Doppelganger is out, we now get our buff that's going to start counting up to 5. So it's going to give you some mass damage. And then we're going to do it a second time. So I'm going to rinse and repeat my 3 Void Slashes. And I'm going to do a second Deep Stinger. And again, once the Deep Stinger ends, you could see at this point, CA's buff pretty much ends. And this whole time, it's been at that 50% increase, which is great. And now this is where we just rinse and repeat. I do my 3 Void Slashes, and then I'm going to go back and just do my rotation all over again. All right, so hopefully that was easy to follow. Hopefully I explained that well. That's the first and tried method of the rotation. You're going to get really good damage with it. I basically am able to defeat Navon using that method with about 10 to 20 seconds to spare sometimes. You also got to understand, it's really hard to compare things in this game when there's just so many variables at play. Things like critical hit rate. You never know which hits are going to be critical hits, which do a lot more damage due to critical damage. Things like that. So there's a lot of variables. Doppelganger's another variable. He has different movesets. He can dish out different kinds of DPS depending on whatever he decides to do. So there's a lot of RNG and variable there. So it's really hard to compare these things sometimes, but that rotation in itself is pretty consistent. I'm going to show you the same rotation now. The only difference is I'm going to be swapping in DH for a second round of weaken. I've had great success using both of these methods. I don't really know which one's better than the other. Both of them have allowed me to defeat Navon with 10 to 20 seconds left on the clock, so I really don't know which one does more damage. I know this first method is that I just showed you guys is generally easier because there's not so much going on. This second method, you kind of have to juggle a few things. So it's the same. So I'm just going to start it up here. It's the same premises. So we have the 3 Void Slashes into CA. We want to get our buffs going. Same way as before. We're going to pull out DH, same way as before. Apply the same kind of buffs. And then we're going to pull out LS. We're going to get his Deep Stinger going, so then we can get his Doppelganger summoned. And now we're going to do 3 Void Slashes. But here's where things get different. Instead of doing a second Deep Stinger right away, we're going to pull out DH again, and we're going to reapply his weaken buffs. Because if you notice, if I go back a little bit, you'll notice that by the time we're done our 3 Void Slashes, weaken is basically ran out at the top. So we're going to pull out... Sorry, it's a little bit quick here on screen. So what I've done is on my 3rd Void Slash, instead of actually letting the whole Void Slash play out, I activate it to give myself the 2 final charges I need, and I pull out DH right away. I go Devil Trigger, and then I apply a second round of weaken. So now we have a little bit of CA's buffs left. We have DH buffs reapplied, but now we're missing Doppelganger. But I do summon Doppelganger again here. So let me just rewind so I can show you guys this in full. So I do my third Void Slash here, pull out DH, reapply weaken, pull out LS again, reapply Doppelganger. So now, instead of doing the deep, I don't know why I keep saying double stinger. Maybe I'm just confusing it with like Dante's stinger and then Virgil's stinger and then weaken. But anyways, the point I'm getting to is here, instead of just going right into a second deep stinger, I do lose the 5 second, the 50% buff, but I've now traded it for Dante's or for DH's weaken status again, and the buff is going to come back out and it's going to count back up to 5. But this time I have a second set of weaken going, and then I just go back into the same rotation. After that second stinger, I go into 3 Void Slashes. I go into CA's buffs again. Pull out DH, get weaken, get all the buffs going. I can't say this enough. Look at how annoying Navon is. She just does whatever the fuck she wants, bro. Like, look. I guess I got hit. I guess I got knocked back. But anyways, summon Doppelganger here. Go into Deep Stinger. Fully buffed again. And then once this finishes, I want to do my 3 Void Slashes. But on that third one, I want to pull out DH, reapply weaken, pull out LS, reapply Doppel, and go again for a second time. So as you can see, it's very similar to the first method, but you're actually applying. So here's the trade-off. Here's where things get tricky, and this is where I have this side-by-side comparison video ready for you guys. So the thing that makes this situation tricky is you're getting a second round of weaken, which is great for the second Deep Stinger, but you're basically eliminating your 50% increase in damage for like a few seconds. because you're still bringing Doppelganger back out, but now you're having to count from 1 to 5 again, so it's like 10%, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Rather than the first method where you just retain your 50%, you might not get that second round of weaken, but you retain that 50% the whole way through that second deep stinger. Now the question is, which one performs better? I'm not really great at math. I mean, you guys, like I said, you guys can look at the damage inflicted and do the start damage and minus that by the damage afterwards to see what the difference is. But like I said, there's just so much variables involved. How much Doppelganger does is random. The moveset he does is random. You have to consider critical hit rate and critical hit damage numbers, things like that. So it's really hard to compare these things at a visual surface level. You'd have to really pull the damage in the formulas and figure things out properly, which I'm not willing to do. But if anyone out there in the community can do that, that would be very helpful. But yeah, so I did a side-by-side comparison. On the left side, we have method 1. On the second video, we have method 2, the one that we just went through. So you can see with the buffs at the top, we have the maintained 50%, but then on the right side, we have the buff just activating, so it's got to do its count back up, but we now have our second round of weaken applied. So I'm just going to let it run a couple times for you guys. I'm not going to make any determinations. It looks very similar. I feel like they both kind of have a trade-off on each other that make them very close in, because, like I said, this one maintains 50%, but you don't get the weaken. This one, you don't get the 50% from the beginning, but you get weaken, and by the end of the deep stinger, you get back up to 50%. So there's a bit of a trade-off there, and I'm not really sure which one's better. So I'm just going to let this fly here. I'll let it play again. So you could kind of see on the left side, you're seeing a lot more numbers displaying. That's just because of Doppelganger doing a different moveset. So it's a little bit hard to tell, but you can kind of see the numbers between both stingers. You do see a lot more 3s on the left side. You do see quite a few 2s on the right side. But you do still see some 3s on the right side as well as that number climbs up. So very similar methods. They'd have to be extremely close on a performance level. Yeah, I can't really make a determination off that. But like I said, when I'm versing Navon, both methods seem to work well. I get good results using both methods. I do think method 1 is less complicated, which is not applying the weaken on the second time. So yeah, I don't know. So that's my physical rotation between LSCA and DH and kind of the explanation and why. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. I can try and do this with other teams that I have, if that's something you guys want to see. These videos definitely take a little more effort because I gotta, go in and pre-record these videos and take the time to kind of scrim through all of them, the footage in real time, and talk it through with you guys. But if that's something you guys enjoy, which a lot of my guide videos seem to get good reception, I can definitely continue doing that. Let me know in the comments below, like, which teams you guys want to see, which hunters you guys want to see. I do kind of want to set up. I do kind of want to set a little bit of a boundary though. Like, you guys got to understand that it's a mobile game. It's just like any other. Its sole purpose is to extract money out of people. I don't have every hunter maxed in this game. I don't plan to. And people who do should probably be in my shoes doing these videos, because they're the ones that have the access to these comparisons way better than I do. I'm just going to say that. So I try to make this content with what I currently have in the game, but unfortunately I can't meet everyone's demands because I simply just don't have all the hunters maxed out, and I don't plan to either. So it's really hard to make comparison videos sometimes when you just don't have everything at your disposal. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have a great rest of the week. See you guys later.